California Governor Gavin Newsom is moving ahead with his plan to redraw the state's congressional maps to counter the Republican redistricting effort happening in Texas. California's legislature is expected to release a draft of a new congressional map tomorrow. Newsom says he would consider putting the new map on the ballot in a special election in November. He claims by redistricting California, Democrats could gain enough seats to take control of the House after next year's midterms. Newsom's plan may face an uphill battle, though. 64% of California voters support keeping the state's independent redistricting commission. That's according to a new Politico survey. 36% of respondents say they would support returning redistricting authority to state lawmakers. Now to this fight in Texas, where the redistricting battle began. The Democratic lawmakers there are protesting the new state congressional map, and they now have a group of state labor unions that have joined them. The Texas AFL-CIO, along with labor unions from 7 other states, are banding together, and they're speaking out against the redistricting push. In addition to Texas, labor unions in California, Florida, Illinois, Missouri, Ohio, New York, and Washington have vowed to fight redistricting in their states. The Texas AFL-CIO released a statement signed by the leaders of 7 other unions saying that the future of our unions, our democracy, and our freedoms is at stake. Donald Trump is desperately trying to rig the rules in his favor by demanding a corrupt, rigged redistricting process in Texas, and he won't stop there. The Democratic lawmakers are now discussing when they'll return to Texas. So far, they've managed to stall a vote on a proposed map, one that was designed to give Republicans 5 more seats ahead of next year's midterm elections. Here now is Rick Levy, president of the Texas AFL-CIO. Welcome to Chicago. So we've got quite a fight on our hands. Why did it feel important for your group to join in the fray?
Well, because I think this is really an issue that goes to the heart of what workers need in this country. I think that our democracy is the way we have a voice in our communities. It's a way that we are able to fight for things like health care, like fair wages, like the right to organize and things like that. And why we're so involved in this is because the effort to redistrict is a very direct attack on our ability to do that. And so if we are silenced in our communities, then we're not going to be able to advocate for our members and for all working people to make sure we get a fair shake.
How do you reconcile the process that Democrats and Republicans both do this, even given the knowledge that this is happening at a unique time?
Yeah. So thanks for asking that question, because this is not a Democrat versus Republican issue. That's why labor unions are involved. Yes, it's taking that shape right now. But what it's really about is workers versus the billionaires that are trying to continue to rig our system. And that is the issue. And this process happens once every 10 years. And last time that President Trump ran and he wanted to win the election, and he called the folks down in Georgia and he said, I need 11,000 more votes. And the Republican Secretary of State in Georgia said, no, our democracy has rules and processes to make sure that it's fair. This time, when he called Greg Abbott and he said, I need 5 more Republican seats, and set him out to slicing and dicing our communities across the state to fit his political needs and ambitions, that is when unions said, we have to get involved, because this is a fight for every working person in our ability to have our voice heard.
And I hear that, but does it then water down the argument when California is promising to do the same? How do you explain that to the person at home who goes, no, wait a second, that doesn't make sense?
It's a watershed moment. And I think it's a recognition of the stakes of what's happening here. For so long, this president has run roughshod over safeguards that we ordinarily take for granted in this country. And we talk about, well, we follow the rules as we continue to lose and continue to see fundamental freedoms like the right to organize stripped away at every turn. And so now I think the choice is this. It's like, do we let them do this in Texas and say, oh, well, we're going to follow the rules everywhere else because we're better people? Or are we going to fight back using the same tools that are being used against us? And I think the argument that you're raising, that other people do it too, nobody has done this mid-decade redistricting like is happening in Texas now. Never happened. Never had such a frontal assault on the Voting Rights Act. explicitly trying to get it completely overturned by the Supreme Court. And so, yes, what happens in 2026 in these elections is going to have a dramatic impact on the future of this country and our ability to maintain accountability for what's happening in Washington. So it's not ideal that this is what has to happen, but sometimes if you're in a fight, you have to use whatever means are necessary to be able to survive.
So what I'm hearing you say, if they're going to fight dirty, we're going to have to fight dirty too.
You know, somebody from Chicago said, you know, when they go low, we go high, and I think when they go low, we have to get down there and fight with them because what's at stake is just too important.
Well, I'm being told that Governor Gavin Newsom of California has said that Governor Abbott and Donald Trump are going to have a bad day. So he's certainly setting up the stage that he's going to do the same redrawing. What about these protests, Rick? What can we expect this weekend? Who's going to be there?
Sure.
How are you preparing?
So what's happening this weekend is that hundreds of cities, literally over 100 cities in this state, people are going to be rallying to support the fight for democracy. And unions are involved in that. You mentioned the statement where workers across the country are realizing what's at stake and coming together. So you can expect that a lot of people will be out raising their voice to show support for what the Texas Democrats have done, because they have changed the conversation in this country about redistricting. They have stood up and fought, and they have triggered something that I think people are really looking for, which is the idea that we're going to fight back, that we are going to continue to advocate for our members in our communities. And so I think you're going to see people from across the country coming together to do just that.
Do you think that we are beyond the point of compromise, that there is an apolitical solution to this?
I would hope so, frankly, that we are able to find a, quote, apolitical, because I think when you get this whole Republican versus Democrat, I think people just turn off. Because it's like just what you said. That's what the Republicans do. That's what the Democrats do. So a pox on all your houses. I'm just going to go watch TV and let things happen. And that's why I think it's so important that unions are involved, because we're not doing this to support Democrats. We're not doing this to fight Republicans. We're doing this because something more important than either of those things is at stake. And that's why we are organizing independently to support this kind of activity, to make sure that our voices are heard.
Well, it's an important topic, and it's a fierce fight from both sides. Yeah. Rick Levy, thanks for being here. Welcome to Chicago. I know you're going to have some pizza while you're here in town.
Definitely going to have some pizza. I'm sorry I can't root against the Cubs while I'm here because they're not here, but
they're not here right now.
But I'll do that another time. Thank you for having me.
Enjoy your time in the Windy City. Thanks for stopping by.